Hello everyone, welcome to another Skyrim Let's Play. Today we're going to be playing all the way until the end. No, not really. We keep doing this stupid intro. I'll try to think of something else, but welcome to WWD. We'll kick things off on the fantasy side of things as always, and then we'll move over and look at the game itself and pretty much talk about what happened in the game. I'll kick things off between me and Booty. The only person who actually played was Aiden Hutchinson, and I swear to God, this guy is a sack cuck. In every single game you go watch him, he's borderline getting like 5 sacks, and then he just never actually gets the quarterback down. He actually got the one at the start, which saved his week this week and actually made him look better than he did, but he still isn't getting any tackles or anything like that, which is concerning, but overall, at least he went in the green, so I'll take it for what it's worth. But yeah, this dude goes and almost gets like 5 sacks every week and never gets it. It's so frustrating to watch. Um, Overall, yeah, I hope he starts getting these sacks eventually, but for now, he's just kind of disappointing. Even though he did go in the green, he did get one of the sacks at least. Booty Basher had Romeo Dobbs, who he actually benched. I don't blame you. I would have done the same thing last year when Christian Watson returned. Romeo Dobbs pretty much just fell apart. Romeo Dobbs just stopped being good in terms of fantasy once Watson returned. I think that's going to be a trend again. I think Romeo Dobbs will progressively start doing worse on this offense while Christian Watson does better. Only time can tell, but for tonight, he absolutely cooked up 9 for 95. That's about as good of a game as you can get, minus the touchdowns. He didn't get any of those. That kind of sucks, but other than that, it was a great game for him. And then you also had Green Bay's defense, who went out there, and Detroit pretty much had their way with them, minus one interception thrown. Even the sack that they had came on like third and long situations where Detroit was just trying to run the clock out and all that, and they ended up just doing stupid play calls and passes. And yeah, it really wasn't a good night for this Green Bay defense all around the board. They got fucking bullied. They got finessed. Yeah, I've been pretty much giving Booty the advice of starting him every week, mostly because of the matchups. This wasn't a good matchup for him at all. Yeah, and they just got cooked up out there, especially in the run game. We'll talk about this later. Yeah, this Green Bay's run defense is atrocious, especially with Devondre Campbell out. But overall, for just the night, I'll take a few points in the green. That's solid news for me. Then we'll look at Toxic Zenpai and Mr. Steeler Girl. Toxic decides he's gonna have the best kicker on a week-to-week basis in every fucking league for no reason. She's a sweaty tryhard at the kicking game for no reason at all. Like I said, he went out there, had 2 field goals for 30 yards. He had 4 extra points made. I think he had a 50. I thought he had a 50-yarder. Maybe I'm mistaken. No, he didn't. And he almost had more, but the Packers decided they were going to jump the line like black dudes will jump a white guy walking into their local KFC. Yes, and then that basically costed this guy a field goal because if you don't know, that's a penalty in the NFL because you can't do shit in the NFL anymore. But overall, Patterson goes in the green by a good 2.5 points or so. While on the flip side, Mr. Steeler Girl goes in red with Jameer Gibbs, who had 8 rushing attempts for 40 yards, which is solid, 5 yards per carry. His catching game, you'd hope, would be better, although it's kind of the problem with having multiple running backs in any football game is if you know which one's the running back and which one's the receiving back. Anytime the receiving back goes out there, you almost know what they're going to do. And that was the case tonight where he had 4 catches for 11 yards. He's a very good receiving back, but yeah, the Packers were just all over it. But in terms of the running game, yeah, like I said, the Packers' run defense is horrible. But it is very concerning, even though he did get those 9 points. David Montgomery had over 30 rush attempts, I believe. I'll have to double check whenever we get to J-Bay's team. I believe he had 30 rush attempts. That's a touch rate of 12 to 30. This dude's getting like 25% of the workload. When you're a rookie, you should be getting progressively better as the weeks go on. Instead, he's now getting pretty much shoved to the background by a guy who's returning from an injury. That's not what you want to see in the slightest. This is very concerning if I'm Mr. Steeler Girl. You did have Sam Laporta, who had 4 catches for 56 yards, which is solid. However, it is very concerning that every singular one of those points came from before halftime. There was not a single thing he decided to do in the entire second half. That is a very, very big red flag. Now, I will give the benefit of the doubt, and that's that at least 70 to 80% of the Lions' plays for the second half were from running the ball. They didn't pass too much. They did on rare occasion, but when they did pass, it didn't go to Laporta. But overall, it's solid, but it is concerning that he didn't do anything in the whole second half. And I don't think either of you have anything on your bench. No, you do not. Overall, this is a performance Toxic's got to look pretty happy with. A few points in the red for Mr. Steeler Grill and a couple points in the green for Toxic. Next up, we had Scrambled and Wiggle Waggled and Big Yawners. Of course, we have the score of 62.5 to 2.4. Darth, I feel you here. I had Aaron Jones. I started him in a whole bunch of leagues. You guys can clown me for this if you want. Not one, not two, not three, not four, 5 leagues I have this dude in. He goes in there. The Packers say he's healthy. They say they plan on using him. And they give him like 5 rush attempts on the day and tell him to go fuck himself. Yeah, I get it. The Packers' offensive line was taking quite a hit today where they were missing their left tackle, their left guard. But still, that was very disappointing for all Aaron Jones owners out there. Um, yeah, I know. It sucks, Darth. I feel for you. If you want to go cry or maybe jump off a bridge, I'm right there with you, buddy. Um, Either way, yeah, rest in peace, Darth. Evan had Jaden Reed go out there, catch 3 catches for 55 yards. He had a 2-point conversion. He also fumbled the ball. He could have had a few more points if not for that fumble. Overall, it's a solid performance, but you do really wish he was getting more catches, more targets out there. He's only getting 5. You wish for a lot more than that. And I think that's only going to go down upon the return of Christian Watson. Same with Aaron Jones coming back, where he's usually the short down reception back. They just didn't use him tonight. Overall, for these Packers receivers that have been doing good, I think they're only going to go down and get worse as the weeks go on. Except for Christian Watson, I think he'll go out there and start doing better as the weeks go on. But yeah, Aaron Jones is going to throw a big wrench into this, I think, eventually. But this week just fucked over everybody who owned Aaron Jones. And then Quay Walker went out there and decided to be Roquan Smith. Now, PMC, you laugh whenever I talk about Devondre Campbell and his upside and all that. Um, I'm not kidding. This is the type of stuff Devondre Campbell would do on a week-to-week basis whenever he was able to stay healthy, because he's the main linebacker. Quay Walker's the backup. But yeah, 10 tackles solo, 9 tackles assist, and a tackle for loss. This is what you can honestly expect to see out of Devondre Campbell if he can stay healthy. You know, he's definitely going to have that stupid downside of where he can just get hurt at any time, any place. But these Packers linebackers are known for getting a shit ton of tackles, getting a shit ton of work, pretty much since Clay Matthews, to be honest. Maybe before that, but that was a little bit before my time, so I didn't watch their games as much. But overall, yeah, anytime Devondre Campbell's out, Quay Walker becomes a must start because of shit like this. And anytime Devondre Campbell is healthy, this is why I said he could be the number 1 defensive player in the entire league. Jonathan Owens, Evan, I've been warning you for weeks now. You should cut this dude. He's not doing anything. He really just does not do shit. I didn't even see him on the field. I don't think they started him. I could be wrong. But if he was out there, he definitely didn't do anything. Tracy Walker actually had 11 points. I think this is more of a fluke than anything. I think it's a mix of Brian Branch. Fuck Brian Branch getting hurt not once but twice because I had to make a few calls to get his ankle shattered in half. But either way, your safeties really aren't looking good. There's a million better options out there. I strongly recommend you go grab one. Jack Campbell took a step back this week. Only 3 tackles solo, one of them being a tackle for loss, which kind of helped his week a little bit, but that's not what you want to see. Again, you want to be seeing these rookies step in the right direction, not in a step back. He's had 6 tackles in the last 2 weeks. This week, he only had 3. So that's pretty concerning. You would hope for sure that he would start doing more, but I didn't even see him out there too much this week, which is definitely concerning. Then you had A.J. Dillon with the return of Aaron Jones. This dude is practically useless. I'm not saying to necessarily drop him, because if Aaron Jones goes down, never mind. I thought he was doing bad, but goddamn, he did horrible over the few weeks. I'm just now realizing, but his only upside is if Jones were to go down, and even then, it's looking like he doesn't really have much hope, to be honest. Yeah, there isn't really much I could tell you there. I would say try to trade him if you can get maybe a pack of Skittles, maybe like a high five from somebody. Maybe if you're lucky, they can give you like a nice kiss across the ass or something. I don't know. AJ Dillon really isn't doing much for you, but Overall, if you're scrambled wiggle waggle, this is a massive W to take because not only is he quite a few points in the green, well, not that many points just because Jonathan Owens decided to shit himself, but he's still in the green while Big Yawners is a good 11 points in the red, which is a huge W for scrambled and wiggle waggled. Next up, we have Rictatorship and PMC, Mike McDaniels, whatever the fuck that says. I'm not looking it up. Now, Rictatorship had Christian Watson, who went out there and he got saved by a touchdown. I'm not going to say it's concerning, not yet, because this is his first game coming back. He's coming off an injury. So I'll say it's concerning with the lack of targets, but overall, I wouldn't be too worried about it. I'd go in there and start him again next week because I think he'll start getting more and more as the weeks go on. Like I said, nothing really too concerning. I think you did get lucky with the fact that he had that touchdown. It kind of saved his week, but overall, I'm not too concerned there. Somehow Jordan Love outplayed Jared Goff in terms of fantasy. Jared Goff there's no doubt in my mind, there's no debating it from anyone. Jared Goff outplayed Jordan Love in terms of real life, and it wasn't even fucking close. Um, Jordan Love had 246 pass yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. He'll said two rushes for -2 yards and a touchdown. Bro was running backwards. He was moonwalking that shit. But then he also had a 2-point conversion and he fumbled. So it was overall, in terms of fantasy, a good game. In terms of real life, it was horrible. And then it's the opposite in terms of Jared Goff. In terms of real life, it was pretty good. Fantasy was awful. Well, I wouldn't say it was pretty good. He mostly got carried by the run game, but he had a few good passes out there. Not really much bad to say. There was one bad interception. We're not even going to talk about this queer. Anyway, you also had Jameson Williams, who was suspended, and then Devondre Campbell, who was out. Overall, both of you are looking happy to be in green a little bit. Overall, it's very PMC barely went up at all when it came to the green. Like, it was a very little nudge. He pretty much hit the borderline combined with his player that he had. We're not going to say players. His player that he had hitting the projections. So overall, that's kind of for him. But Rictatorship actually went a good 3-4 points in the green himself. So he's looking happy with this by 4 points. He's not over here giving somebody a blowy because he got these 4 points, but he's like, I'll take it. Next up, we had MILF and Pussy. I don't know if either of you guys had anyone. Let me see. Oh, yeah. MILF had Luke Musgrave, who had 1 catch for a yard and then got taken off the field. I think he got carted off. I could be mistaken. This is concerning, obviously, because the dude got hurt. Because if you see right there, he was giving somebody head. You're not supposed to take off your helmet during a football game, let alone unzip another player's pants and just start sucking on him. That's not what you're supposed to do. He's probably going to get suspended. Honestly, I'd be very concerned about that because you don't want your fantasy players giving people head throughout the game. It's not exactly ideal. I could be wrong. I've been wrong on this kind of thing before, but you'll just kind of have to wait and see how it goes. Next up, we had Karen's husband and J-Bay. J-Bay decided he was going to cook up for the first time, even though he still didn't set his fucking team. And he had David Montgomery, who went out there and was Superman. 32 rushing attempts, 32 rushing attempts, 121 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 catches for 20 yards. That is the best game you will see out of David Montgomery this season, I think. But overall, yeah, you're definitely, well, not that J-Bay gives a shit about this team, but he would definitely be very happy to know what David Montgomery did for him today. David Montgomery made it to where he went from like a 1% chance of winning to a 7% chance. Amon-Ra St. Brown contributed to that too. He won a point in the green with 5 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. Overall, it was a solid day for most Opes guys. Took him pretty far in the green. Karen's husband picked up Alex Anzalone, who had 5 tackles total and a pass deflect. You'd hope for a little bit more. The linebackers in Detroit in general really didn't do too much tonight, mostly because the Packers were punting throughout the whole night, but overall, still, it's not really ideal for what you have. And then overall, most Ope would be happy with this performance. Well, Karen's a little bit in the red, but as long as the rest of Karen's team does decent, they should have the win over most Ope as it is, or J-Bay as it is. And then, well, I didn't check their bench. Hang on. Okay, yeah, their bench is good. And then we'll move on to the game itself. Jared Goff, like I said, 1928. He only had 200 yards, 210 yards, but it's not really his fault. They were kind of just doing the game plan to get around Green Bay's defense, and it worked pretty well. Especially since the run game decided to just go out there and cook up. You see, when you have a guy who's averaging, granted, Montgomery didn't average that many yards per carry, but when he still got 121 yards on 32 attempts and 3 touchdowns, that's pretty damn good. But when you have a guy that's averaging 8 for 40, so for 5 yards per carry, a motherfucker getting 40 yards per carry, and then Jared Goff, who's out there running circles on you for 10 yards, you know you have a run defense problem whenever you don't have fucking Devondre Campbell. So, yeah, note this if you're the Packers, I guess. Just tell your guys to stop giving the other team head and to start making good run defensive plays because, god damn, this was embarrassing. Josh Reynolds went out there. He had 3 catches for 69 yards. He was the leading guy in terms of the yards, but overall, that's not something you want to ever trust in fantasy. Only 3 catches. He's the biggest fluke in fantasy so far this year that I can think of. Monroe St. Brown was pretty much their leading reception guy overall, though. He had more catches. He had close to as many yards. He also had a touchdown. Laporta was looking good until the second half. And I think most of these receivers just kind of stopped producing at the second half, to be honest. There were a few catches here and there, but not really too much because the Lions were just killing clock because they were bullying the Packers so bad by the end of the first half. And no, I'm not joking. This time the Lions were actually kicking the ever-living piss out of the Packers. Um, yeah, we're going to ignore the top tackler for Detroit. We're going to look at Jacobs. You know, this is Josh Jacobs' younger brother, Jerry Jacobs, not really. But he had 2 interceptions. Look how much better of a defensive back he is than that top guy. That top guy's ass. Um, Overall, he was their top tackler. 5 tackle solo is solid. Hutchinson had a sack and a half. I think that's Chris Harris, had a half sack. James Komansky, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Komansky had a sack. And then Isaiah Buggs had a sack as well. So yeah, there was quite a few sacks, and then 2 picks by the corner. So the corner had a pretty good game. Um, Mostly it was Jordan Love throwing dog shit passes. I actually don't think either of them were necessarily the receiver getting cooked. I actually think the receiver was doing, or the receiver getting locked. I actually think the receiver was doing pretty damn good and was cooking up on the corner. But Jordan Love, I don't know if it was a miscue or what, but both times the ball pretty much just went right to the fucking corner. So, yeah, Jordan Love played like shit, but what are you going to do? And then obviously the kicking game was on point. They made a shit ton of field goals and extra points. Um, and other than that, there wasn't really much worth mentioning. There was a good kick return by Craig Reynolds. And looking at the Packers side of things, Jordan Love, 23 of 36, 246 yards. He was doing even worse than that going into the second half. The second half, he started padding his stats a bit. Yeah, overall, it was a horrible game, especially at the start. They barely used Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon couldn't do shit. Jordan Love somehow moonwalked his happy ass in for a negative 2 yard touchdown. But obviously, I'm joking. He just got tackled for loss quite a few times whenever he was trying to run. But overall, yeah. Then there was Romeo Doubs, who's their leading receiver overall, 9 for 95. It wasn't even close compared to anybody else. Like I said, I think as the weeks go on, you might have another week of Romeo Doubs being startable in terms of fantasy. I would say Reed, you might want to start benching if you have another option. But you're going to see, as the weeks go on, you're going to progressively start seeing Christian Watson climb up this list, and you're going to start seeing Romeo Doubs climb down until it's just eventually a Christian Watson show. This is at least what happened last year. There is a chance that Jordan Love likes throwing to Dobbs for whatever reason more than Watson, although Rodgers really liked Watson. I think Watson's a lot better of the two. Overall, there wasn't really much else worth mentioning. The backup tight end went out there, had 4 catches. Or no, I'm sorry, that's not the backup tight end. That's another receiver. He went out there, had 4 catches, but I don't really think it's worth mentioning. And then, yeah, that's about it. There wasn't really much else worth mentioning out of that receiving core because, yeah, they couldn't really do anything. Quay Walker went out there and cooked up. Corner Rudy, or no, that's the safety. Safety Rudy Ford went out there. He had 8 tackles total and an interception. He did pretty damn good. I think he almost had a sack too, but he didn't quite get it off. Other than that, there wasn't really too much worth mentioning. There was a sack over on, I don't even know what his name. I think it's DeMarcus Wyatt. I could be wrong. I thought it was DeMarcus though. I wouldn't trust that in terms of fantasy. And then there was Kendrick Brooks, who also had a sack. But like I said, in terms of the fantasy side of things, there isn't really much worth mentioning here. I'd say the only highlights here are scrambled. You're happy with Quay Walker. And if Rudy Ford's still on free agency, I'd check and see how he's been doing throughout the year. That's a pretty good performance. And yeah, you don't even see the fact that you don't even see, um, I'm already forgetting the guy's name. The guy that Scrambled and Wiggle Waggled has, I'm already forgetting the dude's name, but if you're Scrambled and Wiggle Waggled, if you're not seeing his name on here, that means he didn't even start out there. He's benched at this point. Scrambled, you got to drop that guy and pick up another DB as fast as possible. Heck, like I said, this Ford guy seems to have been the main tackler outside of Quay Walker, so maybe give him a look. But other than that, yeah. Then you had K Nixon go out there for 5 returns for 116 yards. This is worth mentioning in terms of fantasy. These return yards do count. So on games where he's getting a lot of return yards like this, he can actually be putting up quite a few points. Um, so yeah, games like this where he's getting 34 kick return yards plus 116. I don't know how many that's worth in terms of fantasy, but sometimes he goes out there and gets like kick return touchdown stuff like that, which can be worth quite a lot. So I'd look into that. And then the kicker for Green Bay was actually making 50 yarders. He was doing pretty good. He's the brother of Daniel Carlson. He went out there and had a good kicking game for what it was worth. But overall, that's about all I can say about this game. Is the Lions went out there and bullied the Packers. They used the run game to go out there and cook up. I think the Packers. It's weird because I think the Packers were scared to use their players in tonight's game. Like, they had the return of Christian Watson and Aaron Jones, and they just didn't bother to fucking use them. They just kind of said, all right, don't get hurt, and that was it. So yeah, the game was kind of boring because you were hoping to see a lot more out of this Packers offense, and they just went out there and got shit on. But oh well. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of WWD. And I'll come back at you, I believe, on Sunday whenever we get into the. Actually, no, tomorrow we're going to be talking about all the free agent moves throughout this last week. My mistake. We're going to be looking at all the free agent moves tomorrow, and then on Sunday I'll see you guys for the next episode of WWD whenever we get all these matchups sorted out. I think it comes down to Tack, Booty Basher, Scrambled and Wiggle Waggled, and Dictatorship for who can get the opportunity to be in some of the rankings videos if you guys choose to. We'll find that out Sunday night going into Monday. I'm probably not going to start making the videos for them until about Saturday, but I'll ask what you guys would rather do. The guys I just mentioned, if you guys would rather do it earlier in the week, I'm flexible. We can probably do it then and just record the video. Maybe I can just upload it later on in the week or something like that. But I'll let you guys know ahead of time. We can talk it out, whatever the situation may be. Either way, I'll catch you guys later.